This is the biggest painting in the Louvre Museum in Paris, entitled The Wedding at Cana, painted in 1563 by Paolo Veronese, measuring almost 7 by 10 meters or 22 by 33 feet. It's an over-the-top interpretation of the wedding feast where Jesus was one of the guests, but when halfway the festivities they ran out of wine. It's the first miracle in Jesus' tenure when he turned an enormous amount of water into wine, which tasted much better than the first batch of wine that was served. This wedding story has also been an important argument among Christian people that Jesus approves of marriage, earthly celebrations, and of drinking alcohol. Another less direct conclusion that some people drew is the important intervening role of Mary, as she is the one who warns Jesus that the wine is finished, strengthening the argument of Catholics that Mary can plead with Jesus and God on behalf of the people. The marriage scene has inspired numerous artists over time, and as the Bible does not describe many of the details, and artists had little clue about how a wedding feast back in the day was celebrated, it has allowed them to use their artistic freedom to capture this feast on the canvas, resulting in scenes ranging from very sober celebrations to sumptuous feasts. Unlike many other biblical stories from the life of Jesus, there's only one source that describes the wedding at Cana, which is the Gospel of John, chapter 2, verses 1 till 11, and it is helpful to read them to know what source artists used when painting their version of this biblical story. 2 days later, there was a wedding in the town of Cana in Galilee, and Jesus' mother was there. Jesus and his followers were also invited. At the wedding, there was not enough wine, so Jesus' mother said to him, "They have no more wine." Jesus answered, "Dear woman, why are you telling me this? It is not yet time for me to begin my work." His mother said to the servants, "Do what he tells you." There were 6 large stone water pots there that were used by the Jews in their washing ceremonies. Each one held about 20 or 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, "Fill the water pots with water." So they filled them to the top. Then he said to them, "Now dip out some water and take it to the men in charge of the feast." So they did what he said. Then the man in charge tasted it, but the water had become wine. He did not know where the wine had come from, but the servants who brought the water knew. He called the bridegroom and said to him, "People always serve the best wine first. Later, when the guests are drunk, they serve the cheaper wine. But you have saved the best wine until now." This was the first of all the miraculous signs Jesus did. So, as an artist, I would pick out the following information to create my painting. There was a wedding feast in Cana where the Virgin Mary was present, with Jesus and his disciples, their servants, the master of the banquet who's testing the new wine, and the wedding couple. Then, the only other objective information is that there are 6 large stone water pots holding about 20 to 30 gallons, and that's really it, leaving quite some freedom to the artist to interpret the rest of the story. Paolo Veronese has decided to not put the wedding couple at the center of the banquet, but Jesus instead, recognizable by the halo around his head, and we can see his mother on the left side of him. The majority of paintings on this subject chooses for the same composition, with Jesus at the center, and even more explicit, by putting Jesus at the head of the table, like in this work by Michael Damaskinos from the second half of the 16th century. It's a logical choice, as Jesus is the most important person present according to the Christian religion. But, according to the biblical story, Jesus had not shown anything yet of his special mission on earth, so in reality, he was not going to be at the center. Other artists have solved this issue in a different way, like Giuseppe Maria Crespi around 1686, who placed Jesus at the corner of the table, But he puts the attention squarely on him by capturing him in the light and in colorful attire, such that the viewer's eye naturally gravitates towards Jesus. Notice that the artist came up with a clever solution, not only by using light, but also by capturing the scene at an oblique angle. He was not the only one, nor the first one to do this, as we can see from this painting from 1597 by Cornelis de Vos. But the majority just puts Jesus at the center of the painting to make no mistake on how to identify him. Returning to the work by Veronese, widely considered to be the most famous on this subject, the master of ceremony tasting the new wine is placed in the right foreground and is actually modeled after the brother of Veronese. You can see two of the large stone water pots here as well. The wedding couple is placed at the end of the table on the left side, and we can see how a servant is presenting the groom with a glass of the new wine as well. The other richly dressed guests don't seem to notice anything about the miracle happening, and they just enjoy the food, drinks and entertainment, all in a grand contemporary Venetian setting, which has nothing to do with how the wedding at Cana would have really looked like. Maybe this very modest setting from the year 1500 by Juan de Flandes comes closer to the truth, showing Jesus and Mary on the left, with just a handful of other people present. Although such few people would obviously not need 6 jars of 20 to 30 gallons of wine, which is about 600 liters, even if the wedding would take a whole week. Another intriguing variation on this subject is this painting from around 1937 by the Chinese artist Xu Jihua, which is actually one of my favorites in terms of the composition. The white halo surrounding Jesus makes it easy to identify him. He is standing outside with the servants, instructing them on what to do. Exactly in line with the biblical story, 6 water pots are lined up to fill up with water, which will then turn into wine, while the wedding feast continues undisturbed inside. Of course, the people look Asian and the architecture does not match with Cana 2 millennia ago, but this is kind of how I imagined the story to be based on the original source from the Gospel of John. Jesus just sneaking outside, away from the guests to do his miracle, without creating a lot of fuss about it. A final, more modern interpretation that I found enlightening is this painting by the British female artist Winifred Knights, painted in 1923, showing a wedding scene with multiple spaces and tables, where Jesus has come down from his table to help the servants. Only the people at the table of Jesus pay careful attention to the miracle that is happening, but the other tables and the people just relaxing in the garden don't have any clue what's going on. Well, I hope that this provided a nice overview of the wedding at Cana in art history, and I am curious to hear if you have any favorite painting on this subject. Just let me know in the comment section down below. And I hope to welcome you in some of the other videos on my channel soon. Thanks for watching.